Hello and welcome back, friends, to another episode of LynchPaints, where I will be painting one of the most feared elites within the Covenant forces. We're of course painting today the Elite Field Marshal. So, before we get started, I just want to say this video was brought to you by the wonderful Kraken Studios and of course the creator Captain Hards. Salute! And if you enjoyed this video, then do not forget all the YouTube stuff, so like, share, and if you're new, subscribe, and hello and welcome if you are new. You'll hopefully love what I have in store for you today. So, without further ado, let us grab our energy swords and plasma grenades, and let's dive straight into it. However, before we get started, we're going to need a selection of paints, and these are all the ones I've used in this video today, alongside which we're going to need a medium-sized brush, a slightly smaller basing brush, and a teeny tiny brush for all of those teeny tiny places. So our first step is to apply a white acrylic primer all over the model, and then once it's dry, we're then going to take this lovely apothecary white contrast paint from Games Workshop. Then we're going to take a nice medium-sized brush. I'm just going to thin it with a pinch of water, and then we're just going to cover the entire model with this contrast paint. Now, if it does look quite grey, and you're worried it's going to be a little bit too dark, then what you can do is just apply a little bit more water. This will thin it down, and it means it won't be as intense when it dries. So eventually, once it's dry, we're then going to go over the Under Armour with some of this Black Legion contrast. So we're going to want a thin, medium-sized brush, and again, with using the previous contrast, the Apothecary, we want to obviously avoid painting the energy sword because we want that to be as white and neat and tidy as possible. So we're going to start by just very carefully painting the Under Armour. And if you feel like it's a little bit too big for this, then swap out to the smaller brush, because again, we don't want any of this going onto our lovely white, because it'd be very difficult to try and fix it. So now that our contrast paints have dried, we're then going to grab some black and some of the Storm Vermin fur, and of course grab our amazing little palette here. I'm going to do a 50-50 mix, and then we're going to go over the skin. Luckily there's not luckily there's not much of it, so it's mainly going to be the hands and probably the back of the neck. Maybe his mandibles as well if we can get to it. But I'm just going to start out by going over top, just nice and loosely, nice and quickish. And then we're going to use pure Storm Vermin fur for the highlights. So this you don't have to wash your brush out in between, you can just kind of mix in a little bit more of the Storm Vermin fur, and then just go along and loosely highlight. You don't have to be too neat with it, unless you really want to, then of course you can take the time and pick out all of the rated areas, but we're just going to just pop it in, just here and there. So next on the menu, we are going to take this Iron Warriors Silver, and then using a medium-sized brush, going to pick out just a few areas on the model. So I went back over while I was doing the Under Armour and picked out areas on the thighs and also on the torso, areas of black, because looking at the images online of the Elite Field Marshal from, particularly from Halo Reach, which I love, I noticed that the armour wasn't entirely all white. You had little bits and pieces here and there, little panels that were black, or this kind of really dark sort of gunmetal grey. And I thought, I'm going to incorporate that into this piece as well. So I'm just going to go over these. It's quite neat and tidy. But we're not going to go right up to the very edge. We're going to leave that black. So that way we don't need to go back over it with something like no oil to wash it. And then as well, we're going to paint the handle of the energy sword. Again, just being very careful not to get any of the silver onto the blade itself. And then finally for our metallics, we're going to grab some of this Runefang steel. Again, this is optional, but this you can use just to highlight some of the armor panels, some of the silver work, just to make it stand out just a little bit more. And I'm going to use it mainly on the handle for the energy sword. Just going to pick out a few bits and pieces. And again, you can use this if you like. You don't have to. You can just kind of use just the basic Iron Warriors, and it will still look fantastic. So next up, we are going to look at the energy sword. So we have this lovely Lothram blue. It's a nice kind of light blue, and our white scar. So I'm going to start out by mixing the two together, making an even brighter blue. I'm going to use a bit of a chunkier brush this time, and I'm going to thin it down. I'm going to thin it down more than we would normally to create a bit of a glaze. And we're simply just going to start from the top. Yeah, because that'll be the end, the top. So let me just put it in the middle there, and we're just going to work our way slowly up to maybe about 2/3. It's about there. And now we're going to use pure Lothran blue into the mix. And again, we're going to thin it down a lot more than we would normally do. And also, while you're doing this method as well, when you thin paints down so it's really, really watery, kind of like a glaze, if you pull down like this, and then wherever your brush ends, that's normally where it's going to pull the most. So you want to work towards the darker area, or at least the area that you want the most amount of paint to dry or end. Not too good with the technical words, but when you've done this once or twice, you'll get the knack of it, and you know exactly what I mean. Now, I promise, I'm not just talking absolute garbage, but just drag down the way and just end there. Now, it doesn't matter if these stages are a little bit choppy, because then we can always go back and use the white just to really smooth it out, or you can just use the back of your thumb there just to reduce the amount of paint on there, and then you can just work in just a little bit, just remove some of the excess there, and that way you will get a smoother result. So next we're going to go a little bit darker now. I'm going to introduce some of this Xeris purple into our mixture. So I've done a few energy swords before, and looking at them with the artwork, there is a bit of a purple hue to it. So with this, I'm going to mix it in with our Lothran blue. It doesn't have to be exact 50-50, just to a mixture that you find will suit the best. And we're going to concentrate these at the very end here. And because as we're working with the sword, the paint's still drying, it's not fully dried yet, so that means should mix in really well. It should blend in very well. And then of course don't forget to do just the inside as well. Just while it's still wet, I'm going to try and smooth out some of those edges. So I've taken back, I've gone back to some of this Lothran blue, and I've watered down really, really well. It's a bit too much on my brush there. I'm just going to just try and blend this into the purple. So we're building up from a darker tone to a slightly lighter tone, and it will blend a bit better there. And then we're going to mix in some white, just a little bit, and then we're going to then use that to then blend back into the Lothran blue. So just while that's drying, I noticed that on the artwork there are a few little sources of light that's coming in from the armour. So I've got this teeny tiny brush, and I'm just going to pick out some of those areas. So we've got this recess in the thigh area. And also just on the chest panels. Chest pieces. Moving on to the next step, so I have this lovely Guilliman glaze. Unfortunately, they don't really make these anymore, but I think that you can find these either on eBay at some silly price, or I'm sure some of the other paint manufacturers make a nice dark blue glaze that you can use. I'm just going to take this and a small brush, and then I'm going to just go back into these recesses that we painted earlier with the white. And what this will do is that it will mimic the effect of a little light source glowing from within. And you can make it as dark blue as you like. It all depends on how much of this glaze that you want to add. So I'm just going to brush off some excess and then just use the capillary action of the brush just to pick up some of the excess. So it's more of a lighter blue. And as well, you can pop these into little recesses of the armour, and again you can take inspiration from artwork online. Yes, it's just fascinating. It really helps just to break up all of the whites by adding in these little details, like with the blue or with the black sort of dark silver areas on the armour pieces as well. It makes it stand out and seem less sort of plain. And again, try and be as neat as you can with them. If you do end up going over areas of the whites with this glaze, you can quickly wipe it off with your thumb or use a bit of tissue just to try and mop it up as best you can. Then once it's dry, you can then go back over it with some more white. The sword looks like it's dry, which is fantastic, so I'm going to swap out this small brush with one of our larger brushes. Just going to dip it into some water and then add this glaze. I'm going to go over the energy sword, and this will help just to tie in all of our layers together. Now when it comes to the very end of the sword, we still want that to be quite bright, so what we can do is that once we've gone over the back half of the blade, again just popping in a little bit in the middle, it's going to just dunk our brush into the water just a little bit, not entirely removing all of the paint. So we'll start from the top and then just work our way down, and this will help to blend this glaze together. And then with this, you can kind of go back in with more glazing, just to add a little bit more blending and detail and intensity if you like. But just doing it this way will be sufficient. So once the sword is completely dry, I'm just going to take a brush, grab our white, and then I'm just going to just gently edge highlight around the sword. And this will help just to make it stand out a little bit more as well. So this is how I went about painting the Field Marshal for your elite forces from the Halo franchise. It's been very, very wonderful to paint this, and a massive thank you again to Kraken Studios UK and to the creator, Captain Hards, for sending me this model to paint for everyone to enjoy at home or on the bus or the train, wherever you like to watch the videos. Hopefully, while you're painting along with me with one of these yourselves. If you want to grab one of these, then check out Kraken Studios UK and their Etsy page. The link will be in the video description below. And as well, if you click on the link, not only if you're within the UK, you'll get free shipping, also you will receive a discount on your order at checkout as well. Just tell them that LynchPaints sent you, and they'll be able to knock a little bit off the price for you. It's been fantastic painting this, and if you had enjoyed this video as well, then don't forget to like, comment, share with your friends as well. And if you're new, just hit the subscribe button down below. It's free, only takes a few seconds, as I want to try and get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I think we can do it, but I really need your help. And all your help with our little channel of mine, with growing it, has been absolutely amazing. So massive thank you to everyone that has tuned in every week to watch me just paint a load of models. I am starting up a theory, not channel, but a theory kind of playlist, looking into kind of Warhammer, lore, little interesting bits and pieces like that. I might go into Halo as well, but I want to try and grow my little Halo audience first, so I can get a little bit more interest. But if you want to see something like that in the future, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to support me a little bit further, I do have a super thanks button down below, and if you just want to donate me a few quid here and there, or enough for like a new paint pot or a coffee or whatever, then it's there for your consideration. And again, massive thank you for watching, and remember folks, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you all next time.